Peace, family, peace. This is your brother, Malcolm Flex TV. Let me just check and see if we live, and we can go all the way in with this. Make sure we live.
My camera just went off. It won't come back on. It's weird. Can you all see me?
Okay, cool. We live. Come on, y'all tap in. We apologize. We apologize for the delay, but your brothers have just been having some technical difficulties. Brother Reggie, you still on?
Yes, I am, good brother.
All praises due to Allah. Hold on. Let me check and see if the audio is getting you. Just go ahead and speak real quick.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
Okay, cool. Praise be to Allah. We can hear you. Okay. So this is your brother Malcolm Flex TV again, and I'm back with a special guest, brother Reggie Mabry, and also I'm here with a featured guest, Sister Nayyirah Muhammad. So family, please show your love for both of our guests today. We're here with another fantastic live video, and yeah, we're gonna get into the science of things, and that's how we gonna run with it. So dear beloved brother Reggie, this is your first time on Malcolm Flex TV, beloved. Can you please introduce yourself and give us a background of yourself, beloved?
Brother Reggie Mabry, I was born in 1965, 1 month after the death of El Hajj Miguel Shabazz. I was born in Newport News, Virginia, migrated to New York in about 71 to Brooklyn, New York, and then migrated to Castle Hill Projects, the Bronx. I did not have knowledge of myself until 17, roughly to about 19 years old. From there, I was in the streets. Where I come from, you know, if you ever read anything about New York, my younger family, they were involved in things like sex, money, and murder. All of that stuff happened, you know, at my time period. After my, you know, they were younger, I was older. So I know a lot about what happened in my vicinity regarding about that. I've seen a lot of the actors, and some I know, some I don't know. But my childhood was pretty regular until cocaine entered our projects, and then from there it turned to crack cocaine. But that was in my later years. In my early years, it was just cocaine, and I was probably might have been in the 10th and 11th grade, and the first murders started happening, and then people were trying to look for connects, and all of a sudden, and then I found myself and my friends, we found ourselves in the thick of things, as to say, and but by the age of 19, 20, 21, I found myself in college at the Department of Black Studies at City College, and I met Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor Small, and they gave me an offer, and I took the offer. The offer was to change my life, get knowledge of self. 1986, I went to West Africa with Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Dr. John Henry Clark. In 1987, I went to Egypt, Kemet, with Dr. Joseph Benjo Cannon and Dr. Clark and Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor Smalls. So I had some life-changing moments. I tried to reach back to my partners. Some of them I got to college for a while, but most of them remained in the world that they was in. So I was able to change my life. And then, you know, college, I worked at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture at the New York Public Library for about 5 or 6 years. I worked at Asian firm for a little while, worked for a public defender office for 16 and a half years. But all through that, I had been working in the struggle for our people. It was just an extension, a different life. So I became a soldier in the Black movement. And so as a soldier, you wear different hats and you do different capacities. And basically it was for the love of our people. So, you know, we are not paid. So I've met, a lot of people think I'm young, but I met many of the people that we know, that we've heard of during this period. So I've met Sister Ella Collins, Malcolm X's sister. I met her because I served Professor James Small on an annual pilgrimage to Malcolm X. So I am associated with the Organization of Afro-American Unity through the Sons of Africa. That is a organization that they created to help continue the pilgrimage. I knew and loved Sister Betty Shabazz and talked to her many times. I knew and met many of the daughters of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X. I have met the Minister Louis Farrakhan several times. Closest proximity was during the Gil Noble funeral, where I was an escort for Dr. Ben, Joseph Ben Jokanan, and the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, came to that funeral for Gil Noble. And I've been in places where he spoke many times. And being a member of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, associated with those who were in the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, I know well what happened. I know well what happened from their perspective during that particular period. However, they—
Reggie, you can hear me, right?
Yes, but you can't hear me.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir. My bad. Yes, sir. Call drop.
So I'm calling you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah, you can continue.
So I had been on the side of the Organization of Afro-American Unity for many years as a soldier. So I have a different point of view, but I can just say from my understanding now is that it was the reactive mind that caused the caused us to not be able to fix our internal differences, and ultimately that opening caused the oppressor to assassinate El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. And I am supporting the Nation of Islam in getting or proposing that first his people become clear, and then if that model works, we could talk about the rest of the people, the value of becoming clear, because it is the reactive mind that the oppressor uses to take advantage of our people. And it's the reactive mind that it causes the killing and the destruction. I study ancient Egyptian culture only for the lessons learned out of that, so that I can extend it and connect the dots. So that's generally my life, except for I represented myself in federal court. I am a famous federal pro se litigant. I have more than 95 citations to my case that I did. My case left the federal court, went to state court, where I had an agreement with the party. But my case is famous, and I've learned some things about federal law, and that has helped me. So that's me for now. You have another question?
Yes, sir. Hold on one second. Okay. Also, dear brother, when did you start working with Brother Sarnetta TV? And are you brothers still working together?
I started working with Brother Sarnetta about 5 years ago. So I could say that I was maybe about 49, 50. and we had a good relationship. We've done a lot of good shows for the people, and a lot of people have gotten an enormous amount of education from all of the shows that he puts on, and certainly the shows that I put on, because I primarily deal with ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, and I bring that strength to the program. I'm not currently working with Brother Sarnetta, and that's just, you know, nothing is permanent, nothing is forever. It's just that I respect what the brother does. I respect the shows, but at this particular point, I just would rather be not connected to any particular show. I'm not on any particular show. That's why I'm on your show. But I think that people should continue to watch his show. He brings on a lot of people that you probably need to hear. Yes.
So, next question, brother. When did you begin looking into Dianetics, and why do you support the Nation of Islam's position on Dianetics?
Well, like a lot of people, I've read a lot of books, a lot of materials, and so I'm 54 years old, so I might have come across Dianetics maybe about 10, 15 years ago when the book came out, and I picked up the book and I just went through the book. I was involved in the Black struggle, and so, you know, we have our eyes open if anybody European is trying to produce something, and then we see their community, and their community is not my community, and their community is led by their community. So certainly, even though I picked it up and I glossed through it and I read it at that time, wasn't really interested in it. Where I got more interested in it is the kind of conversation that we have been going on about the attacking the Nation of Islam for using that tool. And so that means I just dusted open the books again, and then I connected my own research on ancient Egypt to help, I think, give the community some more information that they should know about the thinking Black men and women. Can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Peace, family. Peace, family. Okay. Yes. Right. Okay. Okay. So, also we have Sister Nayyirah on the line as well. So I would like to also introduce Sister as we ask Brother Reggie some questions. So, Sister, would you like to come online and also introduce yourself and give us a background of who you are?
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. I apologize for whatever reason the camera went out, but Allah's the best knower. Praise be to Allah. I am Sister Nayyirah Muhammad out of St. Petersburg, Florida, married to the David Muhammad of 19 years. This is due to Allah, strong family, strong nation. Have 5 beautiful children, 6 beautiful grandchildren. I'm a student and follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, member of the Nation of Islam, and service to my nation of 19 years. And I thank Allah for that. I am the eldest of 5 children. My parents were married, then divorced, and my mother got remarried. I've typically lived the typical Black struggle. You know, we all have our stories, and I have my story, and my chapters are still building in my book by Allah's permission. And I was introduced to Dianetics by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan when he introduced it to his laboring staff in 2010. I am one of the first 155 laborers that took on the challenge to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I am certified as a Dianetics auditor, Harvard's Dianetic auditor. By Allah's permission, I have attained the state of clear and beyond. In addition, I am training with the higher echelons of the technology of auditing so that I can also assist, not just getting it for myself, but assist our nation and assist our people. For I have found and gained benefits for myself through and with the obedience, being obedient to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I have found what he has found, and that is tools that will help us to be better people. So I'm very grateful to Allah to be able to express on your show that which I have gained, as well as being a student to learn from our dear brother Reggie, who have definitely given his resume of what he has done, and I'm very honored and humbled. So thank you both. As Brother Reggie said earlier, we're going to build by Allah's permission.
Thank you so much, good sister. I have a presentation. I would like to go through the presentation, and I give Sister Nayyirah any permission to stop me or ask me a question at any given time, and then and when I finish it, then we can have a build. Okay?
Absolutely.
I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let me just get back to it. So the title of my presentation is The Wisdom of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Dianetics on the teaching of the Nation of Islam is a tool no different than any tool, like a mode of transportation, education, or a gun. Are we scientific thinking black men and women? The question is, do we have to be scientific thinking black men and women? And I added scientific to just thinking because of the fact that now we're in a different time period where science is part of the thinking of those who oppress us, and we have to upgrade our thinking, and we have to use tools, and so we have to do analysis of what tools we want to use. You can still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So let's over here. Okay, did y'all see that presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so at the end of the presentation, it was Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and you saw that young man in the corner?
Yes.
Did you see the young man in the corner? I'll play it again. At the end.
Yes, sir.
You see that young man in the right with the hat on? Next to Dr. Leonard Jeffries.
Yeah, we see you, brother.
Man? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that young man was Brother Reggie. That was 1995 Million Man March. So I was an escort to Dr. Leonard Jeffries at that time period. So I went to the first Million Man March, understanding clearly that I am connected to the Organization of Afro-American Unity by Professor Small. Professor Small also went, and we all went to hear what the minister had to say. The minister that day used a tool. It was an auditory tool. And he made people take an oath. And that oath saved thousands, if not tens of thousands of black people from murdering themselves at their own hands, and the resulting tens of thousands or multiple thousands of court cases resulting from the murder of our own people. Just that one tool. Tools are important, right? So right then and there, as we look back, we can see that the minister understood that he had to do something with the reactive mind. And he used that march to begin a process of understanding what the culprit of our relationships with each other and our relationships with the oppressor and our lack of being able to march to freedom is based on a reactive mind. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I put up this chart. This is the scientific method and the engineering method. And these are processes that we go through. We ask a question, do research, do background research, construct a hypothesis, and we test with experiments. So in the case of introducing tools like to communities that already have systems, we go through these phases. What is the problem that we need to relieve? What is the problem of Black men and women in this case? Do some research, construct the hypotheses, right? Test with an experiment. So the hypothesis is that we need new tools, or we need to add tools to our existing programs, religion, faith, spirituality. And then we go through, is the procedure working? Yes or no? And then we analyze the data and the conclusions, and we continue on. So the sister Nayyirah, she is clear. So she's went through this stage of the nation actually asking a question: is there some tool that we can use and find out what that tool might be, test with experimentation, and go through this through the system? Does that sound correct, Sister Nayyirah?
I'm sorry, could you be clear? I heard you, but I need you to really like state the question for me. Because it was like, yes, sir. What's the question for me?
Fine. So my belief is that, is that the minister and the Nation of Islam asked a question: what is plaguing the Black mind? What is plaguing the stopping our people from progressing in a way in which we could deal with ourselves and the oppressors? So they did some research, and they constructed a hypothesis as to some method that they might use. I'll stop there. Did you hear all of that?
Yes, sir. Let me just give you, in what I understand you to say, you know, as far as what has happened to us in a people, basically in a nutshell, and is this tool effective? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm talking more about the process, but you are
Okay.
free to say anything that you want, sister.
Okay, yes, sir. Well, if we deal with the process, let's just start from our sojourn being brought over to America from our native land. We know, I'm sure all of us know about the transatlantic slave trade. In the process of us being brought over here, we were not brought as slaves. We were brought as prisoners of war. And in that process, we had to be broken. And in that process of being broken, the means and methods that was used not only broke our spirit, but it broke us mentally, emotionally, and definitely spiritually. So in that process, brother, you took gods and we were made into devils, right? So the methods that was used took away the original knowledge, the original culture, the original language. We have now been made into a whole nother people. So that process that was used is not the process to sustain a God in America stay in time.
Okay. And I certainly agree with 95% of that. I want to ask you, were we perfect in Africa?
No, we was not perfect. No, we was not perfect in Africa.
So we had some problems in Africa before we got here because
Absolutely.
of, okay. And so the thinking method of the African did not prepare the African for the continuous invasions. And we made some choices, forgetting who we were, capitulating, and then actually having some involvement in some cases in our own enslavement. But what I was asking generally was, in bringing a tool like Dianetics, you ask a question, what happened to us? You do background research to understand what happened to us. And I think that you did both things. Then you constructed a hypothesis, which is basically we need a tool to help us. Is that correct?
Well, you know, brother, I would say this as a student follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that what we need and what we have is the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we know that these teachings will civilize the Black man and woman in America. You know, I have found that the technology of Dianetics helps us to do it quicker, you know, but what we have as far as it relates to the supreme wisdom, as it relates to how to eat to live, as it relates to the message to the Black man, the words, the guidance, and the voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the perfect tools to resurrect the Black man and woman and to remove Satan from the minds of our people, you know? But we are grateful for Mr. Hubbard, who gave us the technology, he didn't give it to us, you know, he only put it together. You know, I love Mr. Hubbard and his ability to give acknowledgement. When you read the book, Science of Survival, Mr. Hubbard said in the acknowledgement, to 50,000 years of thinking men without whose works Dianetics could never have been formulated. The credit is theirs and not mine. So therefore, the technology of Dianetics has always been on the planet. He just put it together, he codified it, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said this: I found something here, meaning at the Church of Scientology, as it relates to Dianetics, that belongs to us. You see? So having this technology, having these tools only helps us to get it done faster. And we have found in the Supreme Wisdom where we are taught that we were going to need modern equipment and modern technology. So I believe that Dianetics is a part of that. It's not the only key that we will be given, but it is one of the keys.
Okay, so you do know that I'm from another community. And so the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is certainly in my memory, and certainly the teachings of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is certainly in my memory. But you do know that we in America, as they call it, United States, there are many different groups of people in the, and what we're trying to do is we try to find unity. So the reason
Absolutely.
The reason why I'm doing this is to kind of find a way to for people to unify and then deal with the people who are preventing us from unifying. So I'm gonna put up.
Absolutely, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for saying it. And I'm so grateful that you said that, because this has to be known amongst all of us, that we have to find the principles of unity to connect the dots to save our people, because our people are suffering. You see, and as our people are suffering, we're going to need many tools in our tool belts to be able to save our families. Because we know where there's no family, there's no nation. And when we talk about nation, we're talking about a nation of people, Black people, our people all over the planet Earth. So I'm very grateful that you had that Allah blessed you with the idea to do this, because it's going to take, our unity is more stronger than an atomic bomb, you see? But as it relates to Black people in America, and as a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I definitely must say this from my perspective and my upbringing in the nation, that the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad I have found and I know is the best reformation program that is on the planet Earth as it relates to our people. There are many different sects and many denominations of faith and ways of devotion, and we have to be able to come together to be able to build our people, rebuild our people, and make us the new people on the planet.
Well, I certainly respect your truth and your path.
Thank you.
And I am gracious to being able to speak with you and your family, right? And your husband is there on guard, front seat. So I am grateful. My question, of course, is what prevents us from scientific thinking? And I'm going to say pretty much the same thing that you said in a different type of way. You know, modern science basically says that our thinking or cognitive psychology is the things that are connected to it: human intelligence, perception, language, thinking, and problem solving, memory, and attention. If we were left naturally without any obstacles, we would be at a high level of cognitive psychology or thinking. But we have these obstacles. And these obstacles are fears, guilt, remorse, oppression, nightmares, resentment, hate, self-ego, discrimination, rape and abuse, physical handicaps, poverty, drug abuse, poor diet, unclean environments, no money, no opportunity, poor education, imprisonment, our own medical issues, these national politics, police harassment, post-traumatic slave trade, as they call it. And I think that you talked about that certainly when you first began talking about our condition. And so thank you for that. And so we have people like Dr. George Brew and Professor James Small that talk much about what they call post-traumatic slave syndrome. If that's an illness, right? And that's just one way to think about it, but I'm going to continue. So now,
beautiful.
In Dianetics, Ron Hubbard discovered, he says that there are two different parts. There's the analytical mind, and then there's the reactive mind. And my slides are, I should have changed something in my slides because I was going to ask a rhetorical question, right? And but this slide is in front of me. So we have two minds, an analytical mind and a reactive mind. And I'd just like the audience to say, is there any other type of mind or from any other type of system do we have? I'm taking this as a truth. I have other truths, but I'm taking this is that as a truth that there are two types of minds, the analytical mind and then there's the reactive mind. Because I think it's a very, very simple way to look at things. And I have other ways to look at it more complicated. But does this seem, for those who practice Dianetics, those who practice Dianetics through the Nation of Islam, this is pretty clear. For people who practice other systems, they may have another way in which to articulate it. But we have something, a positive mind, and then we have something that prevents the normal activities to work. So I just want to make sure I don't have to ask your permission for any of the things that I'm saying. Malcolm Flex TV and Sister Naima, I'm just asking, do we have some type of agreement on it?
Yes, sir. I definitely agree with you on that. And as the Bible says, you know, we can find it in the book of James that a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. So that indicates that there's two minds. And I have come to find that those two minds are the reactive mind and the analytical mind, which is the mind of God and the mind of devil.
Okay. Okay, so let me see if I can turn to. Okay, so then I would say, what is Dianetics? And he says, Dianetics discovered the single source of nightmares, unreasonable fears, obsessive insecurities, and psychosomatic illness, the reactive mind, in his book. So Ron Hubbard, he discovered from his research that there's a single source of these things. Now, he did this in his time period. The whole purpose of my show is to show that it was always ours. Ron Hubbard largely did it for his people. It's an acceptable tool to use, but it was in the minds of the of 50,000 years of thinking Black men and women, way before we got it. Yes?
Absolutely. That is absolutely correct. So it definitely verifies that your study as far as it was ours is absolutely correct.
Okay. So he says that there is a psychosomatic illness or physical illnesses caused by the soul. So thus psychosomatic illnesses or physical illnesses caused by the soul. So that we have mental problems caused by some obstacles that's preventing us from having the correct type of thoughts, right? So I'll just leave it there and go to my next slide. Okay, so Scientology, what is the state of clear? Clear is the name of a state achieved through auditing and describes a being who no longer has its own reactive mind, the hidden source of irrational behavior. And he goes on to say what those symptoms are. So he's proposing that there is some type of state of clear where this particular person has went through a system and has come out and is able to control their mind and thus have control over the things that's preventing them from having mental clarity to complete the mission, to love themselves, and et cetera, et cetera. Does that sound okay or acceptable from my understanding what Scientology is?
Absolutely. Being able to attain a state of clear and no longer having a reactive mind is basically what you're saying. You get back to your basic personality of who you are, and you are able to be in present time.
Okay, so that's wonderful. So I can agree that this is a state that we as a people need to accomplish to win this war against those against who are oppressing us. And their whole job is to keep us in a state of reactive mind. And so I'm just going to say this again, what I'm saying historically. So these are the attributes of clear. So you can go through them. Any of these things you accept, disagree with, you accept them all, you would like to add to it. What are the attributes of clear, Sister Nayyirah?
I'm sorry, what you say?
Is this the acceptable attributes of being a person who is clear, is there any more?
Okay, I really can't read that. I can't read it from my screen. It's blurred.
Okay, can you change it? Can everybody else read it?
Okay, okay, hold on a second. Freed from active or potential psychosomatic illness or aberration, self-determined, vigorous, and persistent, unrepressed, able to perceive, recall, imagine, stable mentally, free from his emotions, able to enjoy life. Absolutely, all of it and more.
Is there anything else that you get from the state of clear that Ron Hubbard did not list?
Well, just for myself, I have the ability to think for myself. It's no longer these voices of chatter in my mind. When I wake up, I can get up and go. I don't have to entertain what I once had different talks in my head. You know how some people, you may have conversations with yourself. That's no longer there. I'm able to think freely. I'm able to be myself. I'm able to rise above emotions into the thinking of a God. Anything that I do, it's my own choice. I'm not re-stimulated or keyed into something that has happened in my past or something that happened yesterday or something that happened this morning. I'm in present time at all times.
Okay. Brother Malcolm Flex, are you still here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. And with you, are these attributes that you have learned that are clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. But the only thing is that I haven't gotten that far into the Dianetics. So that's why we have Sister Nayyirah on, because she has achieved that state And also just to add to it, because I've also heard Brother Ishmael Bey say in his debate with Brother Reza that there has never been an individual to achieve the state of clear. So before you continue, beloved, is it okay, Sister Nayyirah, if you can kind of let us know, is it possible, and how many people do you know that have achieved that state?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely possible, brother. And I know within the Nation of Islam, we have 10 clears. And there's a life before attaining this state and one that's after. You know, for me, attaining this state has been the best thing that I could have done to be a better servant, to be a better mother, to be a better friend, to be a better sister. I'm no longer a victim of circumstances. I'm no longer a victim of pain. You know, hurt people. And I don't dramatize my hurts, my past hurts, you know, or anything of that nature. You know, one being a victim of rape and molestation, one that has grown up in a household where domestic violence was very prevalent. Like I said, the typical Black struggle, you know, and in growing up and experiencing certain things in my life, it caused me to dramatize these things willingly or unwillingly in my environment and dealing with other people. But when you attain the state of clear, there's a peace, there's a joy that's unspeakable, as the Bible says. There's an ability that you regain, and that ability is to be your own, accept your own and be yourself. What is your own self? Your own self, we say it as righteous Muslim, but your own self is a righteous individual, which means when you attain that state of clear, you have the ability to be righteous. Anything else that's unrighteous, you as an individual chose it. You chose to be unrighteous.
Right.
Before, you know, you may have done something and it wasn't even your own doing. It was something that you was re-stimulated. Maybe it was your mother's personality that you was acting out, or your father's, or your aunt's, or the abuser. When you have the reactive mind kick on you, it's exactly that. It's reactive. It acts according to a stimulus response, where when you attain a state of clear, you are stable. You have the ability to see, hear, think clearly.
So this is great, because these are attributes that we want in all of our different African Black communities where we're living in the diaspora. So these are things that we want.
Have it. You know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I once heard one of his laborers at the Nationals say this, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that he doesn't know one Black person that doesn't need Dianetics. So, Brother Reggie, you're right on point. We have to be able to find a way to get this tool out into our community, and we have to be the ones to take it to our people, because we understand the struggle of our people. And when you are taking Dianetics to our people, you're literally sitting there and you're being it's like being a therapist. And we are helping our people through the struggle, and we understand the struggle as we're being able to bring them on the other side of that pain. So it's very essential. It's almost like it's like a 911 state of emergency in the state and time that we're living in this hour. So I'm in total agreement with you.
Okay. So my obligation is, because I am from other communities, which I talked about, and so I'm trying to bring in other communities into this conversation, and they are not necessarily exactly familiar with your work and your thinking, but I'm just trying to say to some of the other communities, is these attributes, or is this thinking something that we want first for our family, for ourselves, and for our people, to be able to separate the reactive mind from the analytical mind, so that we can be better, no matter what we call it. Because see, there's a very, very hot rocket, and a hot rocket is anytime you mention the word Scientology or Dianetics or Ron Hubbard, right? Then all of a sudden the bomb is lit, right? The rocket is lit. And my job is to talk about the history of thinking black men and women, or thinking black women and men, right? Regardless of someone's particular terminology. Okay, so so I'm gonna give you an example of a reactive mind. This is an issue. Recently we're having a simple conversation on health. So we get into this whole thing about, does cow milk help? Is cow milk good for our people, right? And or not, or some other diet program. Have you heard of this conversation, Malcolm Flex?
Yes, sir.
So we having a conversation on cow milk. Now,
yeah, brother Dr. Inky, he's still on that.
Well,
brother Wesley moved on. Dr. Inky's still on that.
Okay, so let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about the reactive mind. Now, Dr. Inky is an expert on health. He is, and Dr. Wesley Muhammad is a PhD. He has mastered a certain amount of thought, right? He's so you cannot take that away from him. But let's just talk about it, because it affects our other people. Now, the first human beings could not digest milk at all. However, without fermenting it, without boiling it. However, humans at some point began to evolve to be able to drink it, right? So the lactose gene switched off. The lactose intolerant gene switched off. We were able to drink milk. Now, in Africa, livestock was the energy that built the great civilizations. It built the pyramids, right? Cattle built the pyramids. That was their food supply, their meat and their milk, right?
Okay.
And so our people, should respect that. Now, milk may never have been really good for us, but it does supply our bodies with vitamin D and calcium and some other type of things. And we were able to consume it because it was necessary energy at that time period. But every metabolism is different. Now, today we have differences in health thinking. Even though everyone knows every metabolism is different. Brother Malcolm Flex, your metabolism is different than Brother Reggie's metabolism. Right? And different than Sister Nayyirah's metabolism. We have hereditary differences in our. So at some point, milk could affect some people differently than others, right? And then there's other diets. There's certainly Dr. Sebi's diet. Dr. Sebi has a great diet. For those people that want to use it, it has good results. But being reactive is, can't we simply, being reactive prevents us from simply finding a solution between both? Does that seem reasonable? Why does it have to be either or when we know all of our different metabolisms are different? Sometimes you can consume milk at an early age, and then you can't consume it, but at the end of your life, you might need it for the calcium. Sometimes it's just simply not good for you at all, right? Okay, so why do we have to be reactive in having these types of conversations? Now, there's just to show that people do research, the first diet for our national people, whether they accept it or not, was the Most Honorable Elijah's How to Eat to Live. That is the first national diet that I know of that affected all of our people, right? I'm not saying it was the best diet, and I'm not saying that there was no problems, but the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right, taught to a lot of us through Malcolm X and others, right, through Minister Farrakhan and others, gave us a diet that, if you followed it, 80% of it, you will be, how can I say, you won't have the ailments that everybody has. I'm just saying something that's true. Now, there are other diets. Of course, there is religious Hebrew diets. I'm not saying that they did not exist.
Peace. I'm gonna merge your wife into the phone call with me and Brother Reggie so I can hear you both clearly.
There are certainly strict Islamic diets. There is, how can I say, there are Christian diets. I guess there's a Black Hebrew diet. There are lots of diets, but I do know that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad came across the first national diet that was published that Black people gravitated to. And the Nation of Islam has, I don't know if you know Melchizedek Shabazz Allah. I don't know if you know him. You're not in New York, right?
Yeah, yes, we're familiar with Brother Melchizedek.
But this man is 83 years old, looking good and going strong. He is the picture of following that program, right?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Sebi, his diet has cured many people. And I do know many people that took his diet and it worked for them. But all of us have different metabolisms. And so both of them should be given great credit. Why do we have to have an argument over cow's milk? Why can't we just shake hands and say, check this out, let's just work it out?
Right.
I want to talk about ancient and modern systems. I don't know what people think when I come on and I start talking about Kemet. I just tell you, in short, Dr. Mario Beatty, he's one of our new greats in the study of ancient Egyptian, says the word Kemet refers to a novel geopolitical national marker of identity that was primarily forged in the cauldron of the internal contradictions politics that refer to what is the first intermediate period in ancient Egypt. Novel in two fundamental ways: the innovation of a unitary concept of nation, the political need to more originally distinguish themselves as a nation of people, which is clearly shown in a new hyper-discourse of borders, internally and externally, initially and principally directed against people from Western Asian and in the first intermediate period. So this is a testament of our people at a more ancient time trying to define themselves as a nation. That's what Kemet means. Just like the Nation of Islam has defined its borders, has defined itself to be a nation. Very simple, right? That's just what the Black members of the Black movement, Republic of New Africa, and all those others tried to do and do this, right? So in order for us to protect whatever gains that we get for being clear or a love of self, we have to create borders so that we can manage our borders. Does that sound clear? Does that sound not clear? But does that sound right?
Sister Nayyirah?
I'm trying to understand the question. What are you saying, like bias using Dianetics?
No.
Go ahead.
That a nation is important to protect anything, any tool or anything that we devise as positive for ourselves. Does that sound right?
It sounds correct to me.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just giving you some information about ancient Egypt. So this conversation decided that no matter what tools that they created, they needed a nation with borders to make sure that they could control what was coming at them externally. And they had success for about 3,000 years, and then they lost the success, and then they had some of the many of the issues that we had. They were invaded themselves. Now you have to understand that I have to teach just for the sake of unity. I have to add in other concepts because I have to go past how can I say a certain period of time for our people to even understand what we're talking about.
Right. That's cool.
Right.
That's okay.
So the king in ancient Egypt, he's the Nasser Bidi, and one of his what he said about himself at an early time is he says that he's the Sychem. He's the Sychem. He's the Sa Sit Kemet. So I made a mistake. So he's the black ram born of the black sheep. So he's a black leader born of black people. And he was the king, and it was his job to control to be responsible for his flock. Just like, for example, Minister Louis Farrakhan, he is responsible for his flock. Before him, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then there's others. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali was responsible for his flock. Marcus Garvey was responsible for his flock. Sister Harriet Tubman was responsible for bringing so many people across those lines. She was responsible for her flock, right? Malcolm X was responsible for his flock. That's just how we work. We have to control our borders.
So let me ask you a question. Why do you believe Minister Farrakhan is getting such a hard time over Dianetics from some Muslims, Israelites, Kemetics, Muslims that were former members in the Nation of Islam over this tool?
Well, what happens is other people have to be brave to come out of their communities and teach their sciences. And so right now, all of what the attacks have been about just attacking him. It's easy attacks. L. Ron Hubbard is white. It's a white system, Dianetics. Why is the Nation of Islam not following following its version of Islam? Why does it have to bring anything else in, right? Why are they following the message to the black man? Isn't the message to the black man strong enough and more important? All they're doing is criticizing. They have not yet come forth and showed their system.
Right.
They have not, if you can understand what I'm saying.
Right.
They have not come forth and shown that their system is so great, that they are successful, that they have freed themselves from the reactive mind or whatever else they want to call it, teach the people what it is. And they haven't shown by example. It's easy to criticize our leaders, and that's part of the reactive mind, to criticize the leader without reaching out and having a conversation and understanding it. So we have not learned to love ourselves. We have not learned to talk loving, respectful, appreciative, whether the person is right or wrong. But, you know, you have to have a very, very high standard to make a critique on a man that has brought millions and millions and millions to the seat of power, right? And left, and those millions have left and went home with no problems, with just peace. You really have to have a high standard, whether you agree with his teachings or the teachings within his teachings. Because it's the teachings in his teachings, or how can I say, if you are a learned person from a different school, you know where those teachings come from, and you could call it whatever you want to call it, right? But it is the teachings of our greats. So the people who want to criticize,
right?
It's easy to criticize. It's easy to get a name to criticize. But what is your system? So,
right.
Yes.
No, I also, before you continue, beloved, I wanted to pose a question for you and the sister, okay? Because I think this would be also you both have the capability of giving thought-provoking answers. So first, I'm going to ask you both the same question, but they're going to be from two different perspectives for the people, for the viewers. So the question that I want to ask is, Sister Nayyirah, what has been your response to people outside of the Nation of Islam in regards to Dianetics and learning this tool? And brother, after I guess she answers, I would like to ask you, what have been the response to you being a brother outside of the nation, but also doing research into Dianetics?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. And if I may, I just want to just say something in regards to the first question as it relates to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan being criticized by whomever. Brother, what we know is that fear restricts us, you know, and our people fear that which they don't understand. And as a people, you know, we have been under the rule of white people for over 400 years. And there's a distrust that's amongst us that is rightfully so because of how we have been treated by our oppressors. So our people are afraid to follow that which they do not understand. However, if you know the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in his work, this man has led Black people all over the planet Earth and really humanity for over 60 years. And this is where you have to know a man to trust a man. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan loves our people, and he have not ever led us astray on anything. So when you think of what he has given us, he has given us a tool that will help to free the minds of our people. He didn't give us white people. He gave us a tool. And when we look at tools that we use in modern times, we use a cell phone. It's made by a white man. The car that you drive, it's made by a white man. Matter of fact, the computer that you're on is made by a white man. So there's many different tools that our oppressors that have made that we're using right now today, you know? So we're not looking at the white man. We're looking at what he has put together to use for us. But if we are students, especially those of us that follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, study the white man, for he's successful at all that he does, and he makes no excuse for his failures. So this is a white man to be studied. And when you look at Mr. Hubbard, you look at his systems, I can attest to this, or I can bear witness that they are supremely organized. So as a people, we fear that which we do not understand. Now, what and fear restricts us. What do I say to people that's outside of the Nation of Islam? That how does Dianetics work for us? Right now, brother, when you look at the studies, our people are being ushered into mental health facilities, psychiatric wards. Our children are being put on medicine by the droves, starting in kindergarten. Our children are being targeted to be put on medication. Women and men have been abused by different people, family members, sexually, physically, emotionally, spiritually, have been abused. There's a plethora of different ills that our community has and is suffering from. That if we will remove the fear and experience something that can not only, and I'm not just talking about, you know, sitting down and talking about a situation, I'm talking about totally these things being eradicated from our minds, and it would never, ever, ever have an effect on you again. We truly can attain happiness. And that happiness comes from the more we're able to be effective at removing the pains, effective at removing the abuse, effective at removing those things that is keeping us blind, deaf, and dumb to our own selves. That's what Dianetics has done and is doing for our people. You see? So I'm asking, I would say to my people, are you ready? Are you ready and willing to experience yourself? Because you have never met yourself. You and I have been under the oppression of slavery, hurt, pain, you name it, we've been under it.
Right.
And this is not a temporary relief system. This is something that we can actually go through, and that which you and I are suffering from in our mental, in our mind, we can totally get rid of that.
Right.
You know? So I say, out of experience, you know, of saving my children, getting rid of grief and anxiety myself, I suffer from anxiety. You see? So in saving our people, this is another tool that we can use to help our families. So it's all about the ability, and it takes love to use that which we don't know and which we don't understand. So we have to be willing to get rid of the ignorance.
That's right.
You know, Minister Farrakhan, he's calling on 10,000 fearless men and women. Well, that fearlessness is being able to experience something that we don't understand simply because we trust him. And as we trust him and we are obedient to him, we go through the system, we gain it for ourselves, and then we apply it and we use it.
Yes,
and for those who don't know Minister Farrakhan, we're living in a time where we got to know him. There's no other way.
That's right.
And whether we want to or not, the enemy is going to make us know him. How? How's he doing that? Look at what he's under right now. You have more people researching the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan than ever before.
Right.
You know, so that's what I say, dear brother. We have to be able to trust our leaders.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, dear sister. Brother Reggie, can you answer the question as well, and then just go straight back into the presentation, beloved?
Yeah, I answer the question really quickly. First, our people have to know ourselves and know our whole selves. So that means extending themselves to understanding the complete history of our people, way past our time periods, way past our parents' time periods, sometimes even way past the longest memory that we can have of ourselves, and actually look at history itself. And also look at what the European and the Arabs and the other people have done in relationships to our people. I have to say this, I am not recommending Dianetics. What I am recommending is and supporting what the Nation of Islam and under the direction of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan does with this tool. I am not telling our people to go to Dianetics. I would tell them that they were interested, go into the Nation of Islam.
That's right.
But don't do it themselves, right? And I also say that I'm just here to give you the history of thinking Black men, right? Just to let you know where this stuff comes from. So
that's right. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, you know, the Europeans been searching for these tools for a long time, way past L. Ron Hubbard and C.H. Vail. He did a book called Modern Masonry, Ancient Mysteries and Modern Masonry. And he talked about, he's talking about masonry, and he's talking about initiations, and he's talking about the things that their initiates are to accomplish. So the candidate is to be threading to be on a probationary path, the path which leads to a straight gate, beyond which is the narrow way, or the path of holiness, or the way of the cross, which leads us onto life. And then he talks about the attributes that he wants the people to be able to have, or the Masons have, or the secret societies have, to control, to wield knowledge, to control other people. This is way before L. Ron Hubbard. This is way before C.H. Bell. He's just giving you a history of what Europeans or those people, way past Europeans, the people that created Europeans, because Europeans was land poor people, poor, resource poor, suffering from the bubonic plague. If it wasn't for other people to come to save them, and so, but he said what they know is that one point is discrimination. They have to distinguish between, let's say, the real and unreal, the devotion to right. The aspirant has to have a devotion to right. Then there are other 6 qualifications: control of thought, control of action, tolerance, forbearance, steadfastness, faith, right? And then there is direct order of succession, a clearly defined spiritual existence, and then readiness for initiations. And so what he outlined here is what all secret societies, basically these are their tenets. And that's what I'm here just to actually show. And so, so if you look at the tenets that he says, the control of thought, control of action, steadfast in purpose, identity with high ideas, evidence of mission, called spiritual order, freedom from resentment, facing the teacher, facing one's learning abilities, preparedness for initiation. As I said in my other presentation, these things were already there in ancient Egypt and thinking Black men, right? So we have Sia, Heka, Hu, Ma'at, Geru, Ma, Ak, Ma, Makaru, Sejim, Ma, and Usir. These are attributes in ancient Egypt, saying the same things. They're alive: control of thought, control of action, steadfastness of purpose. They were already there, so it was our thinking in the very beginning. And so people who studied with Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan and other people, Dr. Ben took us to Kemet many, many times to let us actually see where these things were on the temple wall, so that we don't need an intermediary, but we can acknowledge intermediaries, how can I say, telling us our history, but really telling their own people their history, and we just decide to take to whether or not we want to study one of them or not, or study what they're doing. The fact of the matter is, it was already ours. It was already ours. So other groups of people have systems. There's the Noble Eightfold Path, and they align to those 10 things that C.H. Bell said, that the Nile Valley Africans said earlier.
And these are the Buddhists, right?
Huh?
And these are the Buddhists, right?
Yes, these are right. And so they have right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right livelihood. And so they're, how can I say, their person who becomes clear is associated to something called nirvana. In ancient Kemet, if you are clear, is associated to being Makkeru, freedom from resentment, true of voice, right? If you are in the system of Dianetics, it is just to be simply clear. And in the Masonic area, you become, you have levels of becoming, you have a Master Mason, and then you have levels of how can I say, of degrees, and you have it in all those other things. Knights Templars, you have it in the rites of Mizra, you have them in all their secret societies, and then in other faiths, you have the same. So this has been going on for a long while. So my whole point of it is, sometimes it is good just to see the roots of these things, so that you can know that there are, and then you can choose which system works best for you. Okay, so even the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, if you have a background in any of this, and if you have read the Message to the Black Man, he says the same thing. He's chapter 18, Original Man, Know Thyself. That is key to all systems, to the Nile Valley system, but the Nile Valley system was just earlier. So here's another learned man giving credit to his teacher, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, right? That you begin with knowing yourself, and to understand yourself, you have to be able to understand what the obstacles are, understanding yourself. So in this case that we're talking about tonight, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan added something that a tool that he thinks could help make it faster, get people back on the point who are his flock. I don't want to speak for the elder, but I have a right to kind of see if I understand what he's doing, and if I'm not right, then some of you could say, Brother Reggie, you are incorrect. But I'm a good student, and I had the best teachers. I had great teachers. Now, so let me just see. Okay, so one of the things that he says is that we, the tribe of Shabazz, said Allah God, or the first to discover the best part of our planet to live on, the rich Nile Valley of Egypt, and the present seat of holy city Mecca, Arabia. So what I am saying about ancient Kemet having a record of doing this, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says this already in his book on the Message to the Black Man.
Right.
Now, Dr. Joy DeGoo, she she has presented something called post-traumatic slave syndrome. My own professor, Professor James Small, taught this way before I knew about Dr. Joy DeGruy. And so basically, both of them say, right? So it's not who came first. That's not the point. But I know where I heard it first, and I know where I read it second. But the fact of the matter is that they outlined that, and I think that we covered this already, that what happened to us in the slave trade created a syndrome that prevents us from happiness, prevents us from solving problems. I'm just trying to say that it happened to us way before we were enslaved. There was we had got off the path of right thinking.
I got a question related to that.
Yes.
Before you move on. And if Sister Nayyirah, if you can also jump in on this question, because I'm hearing, as far as the tech goes, that we have Black people have been through certain traumatic experiences to where it is in our very cellular structure, it's in our cells and DNA. So can anybody give me any clarity as far as that goes?
Sure.
Absolutely.
But I'll let the sister go first.
Oh, no, sir, go ahead.
Okay. So you're very insightful, Brother Malcolm Flex, because that was my next slide. So Edgar J. Ridley, who is was a companion of Sheikh Anta Diop, one of our greatest scholars, he has a group of work called the symptomatic thought process. And basically, Dr. Edgar Ridley has understood that our thoughts and our behaviors have something to do with our evolution. So our ability to evolve is connected directly to our behavior, and if our behavior is somewhat challenged, right, or misdirected, then ultimately our evolution, we would have problems with our natural evolutionary process, and we have to evolve. So Edgar Ridley says that in his he says, and different than L. Ron Hubbard, he is saying there's just two minds. There's the symbolic mind and there is the symptomatic mind, instead of the reactive mind and the analytical mind. And his thing is that symbolic thinking is causes us to have a neurological misadventure. And so that we begin to imagine and we begin to make things exist that don't exist. But in the concept of L. Ron Hubbard, it's to be clear, is to not to have these things. So, but the difference is that Edgar Ridley is saying that symbolic thinking causes this thing, and to get back on the right path, we have to think symptomatically. And so, but to get back to your question, is that if we don't change our thinking, our evolution will be challenged. We will not be able to evolve to solve the next set of problems as a people, and that the fact of the matter is that this has already happened because the European, he has found a way to be less reactive, less symbolic, right? And he has been able to leap in 500 years ahead of us. That's going to give us some time, and at the same time causing us problems that's going to prevent us from naturally evolving to be able to, mentally evolving to be able to solve the set of problems we need to solve.
Right. Sister Nayyirah, you still with us?
Yes, sir. So I just want to come from the aspects of dealing with memory at a cellular level. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has a lecture series called How to Give Birth to a God. And in this lecture series, he teaches the woman the importance of her thought, because her thought actually is impinged upon the baby's is impinged upon the baby that's forming in the womb. We also know that sperm carries intelligence, which in that intelligence has memory, right? And Mr. Hubbard, in his book called Dianetics, he has a chapter on preventive Dianetics, and it deals with the pregnancy of a mother that is pregnant and the child that's in the womb, and how that child can actually recall memory of different things or incidents that happened to that child in the womb. So on a cellular level, the thoughts of the parents, of the mother, or in the sperm has an impression that is carried through at a cellular level, and that memory or that impression can be recalled later on in life.
Wow.
This is why we do things that, maybe in the reactive mind is made up of like can't have, or don't have, or must have, or hurt, or pain. Maybe there's something that you do in your life where, you may say, I'm a total failure. Well, that may not have been your thought. It could have been a thought of your mother's that she had while carrying you in the womb, but her thought was impinged upon you at a cellular level, that when you became an adult, you begin to dramatize that thought. You see? So there's things that happen to us in the womb of our in the womb of our mothers, that happens at a cellular level, and we begin to act these things out. So to answer your question directly, absolutely. Absolutely. The cells do carry memory, and we are affected by the types of memory that is at a cellular level.
I want to ask you a question. So this has directly to do with Dianetics. So the fact of the matter is, these memories that we carry, or is they helpful or not, or are they what you call engrams?
Well, let's look at a engram. An engram happens to one who is not that is either unconscious, right, or in a state of pain, right? So when you're going after the engram, you're going after those things that is definitely harmful to you as a person. So you're going after the impediments. So this goes all the way back, even with our ancestors. The things that happened to them, we're still carrying that at a cellular level. So you're going after those things that is keeping us from being in the original mind of God. That's what the reactive mind is made up. It's made up of those things that will cause harm to us. You're not going after your God mind. You're going after the mind that is causing you and I not to be our true selves. And that true self is a God.
Okay, so what I'm trying to find out is that, so what I remember things from from what happened in my womb. Today we have to solve a set of problems. So we have to eradicate whether those things are real, whether I actually remember them or not, or they could be real or unreal. The fact of the matter is, would you agree that we need technologies to discern, to discriminate from that memory, to see if it's even necessary for us to continue, or should we, so.
What I'm saying, yes, sir, I got your question. Thank you. What I'm saying to you is that this tool can help us to discover those things that's keeping us from being our true self. And if you go through this process and you're sitting down with a Dianetics auditor, that auditor will help guide you through your thoughts, that you will be able to find and locate those things that is stopping you from being your true self, which is a God.
Okay.
So there's things in our lives. If you go through this part, have you ever been audited before?
No,
Okay.
not in the process, not in the process that you were talking about. Like I said earlier, when you grow up in the Black movement, you're a soldier. So it doesn't really matter what you feel is it, could you accomplish the mission, right? Can you accomplish the mission? Can you do the job, right? And that later on in life, maybe you could sit back, but when you're a soldier, it's really not your job to be thinking about anything except for accomplishing a mission. There's no time for confusion.
Well, I understand that, but brother, we have poison and rusty locks. We have things that has happened to us, whether we want to think about it or not, it comes into play. You can be driving down the street and somebody cut you off and you may start cursing that person out. You're still a soldier, but that may not be your mind that started you to act like that in your righteous self.
It depends on the training. It depends. So your question was, have I ever been audited? Not in that way. Have I ever had conversations with my elders? Have they ever questioned me why I do things? Yes, I've had it in that way. But what I'm trying to say that there are other processes, and I've been trying to show you some that's been happening. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm saying great. No, I'm not in denial of that. I'm just speaking from the viewpoint of how Dianetics works. And that's why I'm on the show, to learn what you have to offer as far as the Kemetics is concerned, and the process which is used by that. I think that is a very good topic for our people to be exposed to. I'm only speaking from the aspect of how this particular tool, Dianetics, works.
Okay, so the type of person that you think I am when it starts talking about Kemetics, I'm talking about secret societies, mystery systems, and other systems, right? So the system is simply the outlines of control of thought, control your thoughts, control of action, steadfastness of purpose, identity with high ideas, evidence of mission, call to a spiritual order, freedom from resentment, facing the teacher, facing your own learning abilities, and preparedness for initiation. Through that process, for the ancient Egyptians, it was the same. It was Sia, Heka, Hu, and Ma'at, right? Those are the core filters, right? And basically, all of it has to do with the ability at any given time to control your thoughts, right? Control your actions, be steadfastness of purpose, have an identity of mission, right? Those are the core thinkings that you have to have, and in their case, when you have that, they will lead to a positive life. So, our system that we were taught has to do with guidelines to help us understand that we always have to have control of thoughts, right? So that means if there are thoughts that's preventing us from doing our job, we need to understand and refocus, and then control our actions and be steadfast of purpose, and then have high identity with high ideas. Make sure that what you're doing is in line with higher ideas. So the Nile Valley system is a system that created, what I'm trying to say is that the Nile Valley system is a system that created even an L. Ron Hubbard to be able to come up to these concepts, because it didn't drop out of the sky. And so I've been trying to build a map of where the thinking men got this and show it to you So it may have evolved to what you use, but other people use other systems. So we have to be able to, if I'm speaking Spanish and you're speaking English, we still have to be able to communicate. That's the purpose of the show. My show is not to show you what Kemetics, whatever they call it, Kemetic, whatever they call it. My thing is to articulate to the people a common language that we
to basically show how they both relate.
That's correct.
Right.
To show how things are related, because there are other groups that's watching it. So there are more that's watching this show. There are Sunni Muslims that are watching this show. There are people from different different Black Hebrews or Israelites will be watching this show. And so there are different people from different schools. The fact of the matter is, learned people can talk in multiple languages, right? And say the same thing and speak to people who speak multiple languages. So what we're trying to do is speak a common thought, because what y'all may believe, other people could believe points of it, but not in whole. So how do you work this out? How do we create a bridge where so that you don't be attacked? And listen, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, it does not matter to him because the other people are not his flock, but he would like people to understand and appreciate what he was doing. I'm on this show because I come from other great teachers, Dr. Joseph Ben Jochanan, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, Professor Scobie, others who can understand where these things connect, right? And so I have stepped out to be an aid to my people, to help the people understand what you're doing so that you can be free from attacks if I'm successful, and at the same time expand our people and say, well, it was always ours anyway. So let's just understand what it is and not who's saying it.
Okay, all praises due to Allah. Yeah, brother, is there more to the slide as well?
Yeah, I just run through it. What time is against us? You can say
you're doing
that.
a wonderful job, though. You're doing a wonderful job, man.
You can say that. Okay.
And I want, Brother Reggie, I want you to know that I am very grateful for you doing this. And you're right. It is ours. It's always belonged to us. And even Mr. Hubbard himself acknowledged the credit is not his. It goes to 50,000 years of thinking men. We know that white people only been on the planet for 6,000 years. So prior to that, the thinking men is where he actually got the research and put it together, codified it, so that at this particular time for his people and for us, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan found it for us, it's time for us to get it and bring it back to our people, because it does belong to us. So I see that you are doing a very great job. It is very needed. It's very wanted. And our people need people like you that can show how this technology belongs to us, and it removes the fear of going to get something that belongs to us.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate what you said. And I certainly appreciate you and your family, and certainly the Nation of Islam for even having me to be able to have a conversation. So I have a few more slides. So I'm just going to get through it. So the one on the left, you're all very familiar with it, right? So that's Message to the Black Man. And those are the tenets of Message to the Black Man. These are some of the chapters, right? Familiar with that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was revealing a system. On the right side is basically, on the top right is the Masonic system. On the bottom right side, my right side, is the Nile Valley system, which actually came first, but it's articulated in different ways. So these are different languages saying the same thing. That's all. Okay, so what our ancestors taught, I want to pass this because of the lack of time. But at the end of the last two parts of what this says, well, it starts with the beginning of the instructions of the living and teaching for prospering. And then the last two lines is to cause his heart to descend to a shrine. So the ancient Egyptians said at the end of this, whatever we do is to have some mastery of our heart so it can descend to its right place, steering the person away from evil. I want to show this. I have to show this because when we start talking about the 50,000 years of thinking Black men, we can't do it without thinking Black women. And so this important
Right.
paradigm that rule, it shows a woman in ancient times. Her name is Iman Nani, and she is the woman with the two eyes and she has two things. She has three things in her hands: 2 eyes and a mouth, and her heart is being weighed in front of the master, the Grand Master Usir, and in back of her is Usir's wife, the Set. And basically, in the terminology of ancient Egypt, this woman is going to be Makeru. She is going to be clear. Her heart is going to be lighter than the feather of Ma'at. So this was already in the minds of thinking people. Here, I just want to show the demons. The ancient Egyptians said there were many demons. So if you had 12 hours of the night that the sun had to be reborn, or the king had to be reborn, it would have to face these demons, and you would have to be clear, if I can use that word, or makaru, to pass these demons. And I want to go back to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because I'm trying to build some unity. And I come from a different camp, in a different place, but we love each other, right?
That's right. That's right.
And that's the most important thing. And so why should different places fight? And I'm certainly not going to fight with the biggest nation that we've ever, and most largest successful nation that we've ever had in the United States, right?
That's right.
So I'm not going to fight, but so I'm going to articulate something. So at the Million Man March, what did the minister say? He said, well, you say, Farrakhan, you ain't no Moses, you ain't no Jesus, and you're not no Muhammad. You have defect in your characters. Then he says, well, that certainly may be so. However, according to the way the Bible reads, there is no prophet of God written in the Bible that did not have a defect in his character. But I've never heard any member of the faith of Judaism separate David from Psalms because of what had happened in David's life. And you never separated Solomon from the building of the temple because they say he had 1,000 concubines. And you never separated any of the great servants of God, right? And then he goes on to say that God brought the idea through him, and that was correct. The whole point of this message is that the Minister Louis Farrakhan is basically saying that we all have defects in our character, even the greatest of our sages, right? But ultimately, years later, he is going to bring a tool to his people to help remedy his flock from having these defects that they claim a man who could bring millions of people together has. So I just want to say that.
Great point.
Great point.
Productive. So I just wanted to show you some other things. I think I have six or seven more slides. How we don't know ourselves. I'm gonna give you a source. A lot of people read Machiavelli, the Prince Machiavelli. Well, the Prince Machiavelli's principles, it ain't his. It's aligned to Merikari's, Keti's instructions to Merikari in ancient Egypt. You can read this, you could go back and you could get the source, the political realism of the Egyptian elite, comparison between the teachings of Merikari and Machiavelli's principle. Machiavelli, he steals ancient Egyptian thoughts, like verbatim. But it becomes the prince, so we're worshiping the prince, and we're not worshiping ourselves. But the fact of the matter is the teachings came from us. I want to show you the Proverbs. So here is Proverbs 22, 24 through 25 reads this, but it's the same as the corresponding lines of the instructions of Amenhotep. Same thing, same exact thing. Okay, so maybe by circumstances, or so for some of you, maybe you might even say through God that men thinks the same way, but line by line, no, it came from the ancient Egyptians. This is my source. I don't want to have to read this again, but this is what the Masons came to ancient Egypt for proof of masonry, of craftsmen. So I'm not going to read it again, just in the interest of time. In ancient Egyptian culture, the book of Revelation is actually the Amduit, right? The Duat, right, in ancient Egyptian religion. But these are things that we search for and we understand. This is important. This is a sarcophagus of a sister, a Hathor priestess of Mentuhotep. Her name is Henhenet. And this symbol right here on the bottom right that's on the coffin is Caress. This is the title of Christ. Both men and women had this title.
Caress.
Certain people caress. KRS. And
Okay.
so it starts with the triangle-looking figure with the mouth, the bone, and then the cane. That's KRS, and that is the risen one. And so I misspelled this stuff over here, writing quickly, but basically this says it's talking about the beautiful female or sister Caress. She's a Christ to be risen in her tomb. And this is so this comes from us, and this is how can I say, this is about 2600 BC.
So was this title just exclusively for women or both women and men?
Both women and men. I'm just showing
Okay.
you. I see most of the time people see something like the Book of the Dead and the Book of the Dead and they see men. Well, I'm showing it to you with women. These are thinking black women and thinking black men.
Right.
So my last slide is in ancient Egyptian, it says the Sa-Kem, Sa-Sit Kemet, the black ram born in the black sheep, which means the black leader born from his clean, clear people. And so the minister, Louis Farrakhan, is a master of
Go ahead. That's right.
So he understands how people think. So he surrounded himself by the flock of his people, where his next group of people will come from, which is his women, because he knows that he comes from that. But that is the same thing learned people in ancient Egypt said, that you are the black ram born from the black sheep, right? And those people have to be clear, clean people. And so in the scheme of things, people can make all the claims that they want to make. The women of the Nation of Islam, right, is the cleanest and clearest group of our people in a group. And so you don't want to compare Nation of Islam women with fraternity sisters. You don't want to. You don't want to compare them with the different denominations of Christian.
That's right.
Right. And so I don't want to get in trouble, because then I'll start talking about other small groups of people. But the fact of the matter is that the Nation of Islam has been successful in producing clean, clear people that at least he knows that his nation will be born from. The question is, from all of us, where will if we are not connected to the Nation of Islam, or don't see Minister Louis Farrakhan and the nation as our brothers and sisters, where will our people be born from? And so that is what we struggle with. So I'm a researcher, I'm a scholar, I'm a thinker. I was taught by some of the best, and I just wanted to come and help our people to understand that this is all from our people. One group of people might use a particular strategy, and it will be an effective strategy for their people. The question is, what is your strategy and what is your success? And I think I'm finished.
Praises be to our brother.
Praises to the Allah.
I just want to say that was so beautiful, and thank you so much for bringing that out, especially as it relates to the woman, because we know that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And in this time, we need a new mind to make a new man and woman. So as Christ said, let this mind be in you as it was in Christ Jesus. We're all striving to have the mind of God. And as it relates to the terminologies that you started out with the analytical mind and the reactive mind, we know that analytical mind is the right mind, it's the God mind. And that's the mind that we want to be found functioning from. And the more we can clean ourselves up to get rid of that reactive mind, who Mr. Hubbard himself identified, if there was ever a devil, it will be called the reactive mind. He says that in the book of Dianetics on page 64. So, brother, with you doing what you're doing and what we are doing, what we're doing to help our people with the resurrection of the new mind, this tool and this technology will help us to do it quicker. So I want to thank you for allowing me to build with you to help our people to understand that which we may fear. That can be another tool in our tool belt. So thank you.
I so appreciate it, and so that's what we should do more. We should talk. We should have conversations. We should have conversations amongst each other, and that's what we don't do. And build. Even if we have some minor differences, what is the minor differences when we're fighting a war for our survival? So
right.
The powers that be, they decide that they want to ban Minister the Honorable Louis Farrakhan from Facebook.
Right. What are your thoughts on that?
We are Facebook. We are Facebook. We created the concept of community. So here's someone trying to ban us or really cut a communication line, but Facebook didn't help bring those millions to the Million Man March. Facebook didn't do that. We don't need, if that's what they want to do, we don't need that because it never helped us at all. Our march for freedom has nothing to do with this tool that's actually a distractive that causes a reactive mind, right? So the fact of the matter is, so be it. But some of our entertainers they see the injustice. Hopefully there might be a suit, but it's really not necessary. We need to build our own, right? We need to build, we simply need to build our own. That was a tool that they gave us, and a lot of people get addicted to the tool. But we are the black faces. We are the people who created humanity. How dare you pick and choose? But that's what they do. And that's, that's just a military, it means nothing to us. And I can see the minister just smiling, right? I didn't need you in the first place. You never brought millions to Washington.
Right.
You never did that, right? So there's so all we can do is smile, and then there's a lot of people. I wanted to close and say there's a lot of people. They get up there and say, well, I don't deal with the minister because of Malcolm X. Now, right. Let's talk about that. Shabazz, right? For us, an Asur, respected elder. For us, he is our teacher, right? That made, even though he had a teacher, he himself was taught. If there was no Elijah Muhammad, there would be no El-Hajj Maliko Shabazz in the capacity that we know him. So we give thanks to all of them. But I get a lot of pushback. I'm 54, so I was born 1 month after he was assassinated. But they don't love Malcolm X. For the 54 years of his assassination, we have been taking people to his place of his final resting place with his wife. They don't come. They don't know Malcolm's family. They don't support Malcolm's heritage. They read something and they think they know him when, if you ever met him in the early days, he would just point to Elijah Muhammad and say, that's the man that you should follow. And then later in his life, he offered something for unity. That's why I'm here. I'm representing my teacher, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, in the capacity of Organization of Afro-American Unity to continue to try to find some unity among us, even though that there is great pain. But I tell you, those people who say that they love Malcolm, every year, Brother James Small, Brother Starks, right, and under the command and Rodnell Collins, under the leadership of the Collins, of the Sister Ella Collins, who is no longer here. Sister Ella Collins asked pilgrims to come and to pay respect. It is the longest running pilgrimage holiday in the history of Black folks in America. And many of them say that they love Brother Malcolm, but they've not been to those activities. They love him in their mind, but that's just reactive, because the fact of the matter is, to love you can't just love Malcolm. You have to love your people. And to love your people, you have to cry, and there's pain. No one has very few people have more pain about El-Hajj Malik El-Shabaz's death than the Minister Louis Farrakhan. He lived in that time period. He asks himself, were there things that he could have done? Right? Was there? I was at the Apollo Theater when Malcolm's wife, Sister Betty, was there to meet Minister Louis Farrakhan and the First Lady Khadija. After the many years, you would have to be there to see the expression.
Go ahead, brother.
So much they lost in that so much time. The families. And here there is the issue where Malcolm's daughter is being accused of trying to assassinate or being part of assassination of Mr. Louis Farrakhan.
Wow.
And Black people are in this place. And if you weren't there, you wouldn't understand the great strengths that our people have to go through for unity, right?
Wow.
And so, but those people who said it, they weren't there. They weren't asked to come. They weren't asked to come because they didn't love neither of those people. They don't love our people. What they want to do is criticize, but then when you ask for their cup of water, right, it ain't clean.
Right.
But their criticism is clean. So I'll end with that. I don't know if my screen is still showing.
Yeah, it's still showing.
My teacher, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who has been a great friend. We continuously fundraise for the elder. He's up there in years. He's got some work to continue. If anybody finds it that they want to contribute to a teacher of mine who gave me knowledge, just like you talk about your teachers, and they are also our teachers. This is one of my teachers, and I always promote this. So that's it. I'm closed unless you have any more comments. But I'm saying those people who say that they love Malcolm, I question whether or not, and reading a book and reading his story and listen to his speeches, that's nice. But not participating in the Black struggle and trying to unify people, that's what Malcolm would have wanted. That's what Malcolm would have wanted.
Sister Nayyirah, would you like to build on that?
Brother, I just want to say that, the Holy Quran says that Allah blesses those who forges the way for others. I'm very grateful for the brother. I'm very grateful for your show. I'm very grateful for all of those who have come to pave the way for me and for our people to be able to stand in 2019 and have a discussion about uniting. I'm very grateful for those that have come before me to be able to have a discussion where we're trying to figure out solutions to save our people. It is the love of our ancestors and the love of those who love the struggle that can even foster a conversation and a dialogue like this. So, Brother Reggie, thank you for imparting knowledge. I learned a lot from you today. Thank you, Brother Alfonso, for having me on Brother, I'm sorry, Brother Malcolm, having me on your show. I'm very grateful. And I pray that I've said something that will prick the minds of our people so that we may stand up, accept our own, and be ourselves. And let's continue to unite and build and help a suffering people. And I'll close with this. I am Farrakhan. We are Farrakhan.
That's right.
And let's continue to show the enemy that he cannot put out the light of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
All praise is due to Allah. This is your brother. Again, Malcolm Flex TV, man, we had a powerful, y'all don't even understand, earth-shaking interview / presentation. I mean, we had a member in the Nation of Islam, a sister. This is the first sister that I've ever presented on my platform. And inshallah, hopefully this will not be the last, who studied the text, studied Dianetics, who achieved clear and had an opportunity to build with a brother who's a student of Brother Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Ben, who was there doing the with the family of Brother Malcolm X, you know what I mean? And he studied and he chaperoned for many of these brothers and sisters, man. He was at the Million Man March. You seen him in the video earlier, you know, and he saw something in Dianetics that related to his school of thought and the way brother was taught, and being able to bring them both together is profound, man. And when I first saw the brother's lecture, you know, I was very moved by what the brother was presenting, and I reached out to the brother and asked him if he would come on my platform and also share what he shared on my platform, what he shared on his platform. So again, dear family, this is your brother Malcolm Flex TV, and I am very grateful for my brother and my sister for joining on tonight and being able to build. And I won't hold you all any further.
Wait,
go ahead, beloved.
One thing. Shout out to Brother Ben. Shout out to Brother Rizza Islam, right?
That's right.
From them, I actually seen the debate. And thank Brother Pharaoh and thank Brother Steady for having a conversation where we could come back and continue the conversation in a different type of form. Thanks Baba TV, who I first got on the program to actually, so I can meet all of you. So I just want to give thanks to some of the people I don't, who are there, and they should also be noted. And all the other brothers that I know, Dr. Wesley Muhammad and all of them. We have to work out, well, we're on a path to unify, and we just got to continue the right road.
Yes, we on the path to healing, you know what I mean? And that's what it is about. You know, we are family and we love one another, and we're gonna continue to push forward, you know what I mean? And we're not gonna go backwards, we're gonna go forward. So with that being said, dear family, please, if you just now tuning in, you know, press that go and replay, press the replay button. And where can you, just real quick before we end this, Sister Nayyirah, can you let the people know where they can find you as far as social media, and you as well, Brother Reggie?
Yes, sir. I'm on Facebook. You can find me at Nayyirah Tadika Muhammad on Facebook. You also can find me on Instagram at sis_Nayyirah. And you can email me at repairoftheblackfamily@gmail.com. I do have a monthly live that I do as it relates to Repair of the Black Family. And just keep looking forward as we continue to create great things. Also, you can find more information in the Dianetically Speaking group.
All praise to Allah. Brother Reggie?
You can find me physically May 19th for the 54th anniversary to mark the assassination of El Haj Malik El Shabazz at Ferncliff Cemetery in upstate New York. You can find me on Baba TV and some of the other channels, even maybe your channel if you have me back on. All Access Media TV. I'm going to try to do a program on his show, and in the Black community. I'm your servant. It's a pleasure for me to serve.
All praises due to Allah. So this is your brother, Malcolm Flex TV. If this is your first time, press that subscribe button, press that like button, and we'll see you on the next piece. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you. Love you guys.
Love you.
Yes, man. Love you too. Thank you. Wa alaikum salam. Hotep.
Hotep.